LinkedIn is pretty amazing at helping you grow your small business. We cannot stop your new clients from emailing you at 3 a.m. We can help you sell, market, and hire in one place. We cannot help you be in 3 places at once. And while we can't help you organize your calendar, LinkedIn can help you land more clients so you have a calendar to organize. Grow your small business on LinkedIn. Learn more at linkedin.com/smallbusiness.
Are all batteries the same? That's like asking if all soccer players are the same. Take Messi, the most decorated player ever. Is there any other player who has achieved that? No, just him. Now take Duracell. Is there any other battery with power boost ingredients inside? No, just Duracell. Remember, goats only trust goats because they're built different. And Messi only trusts Duracell.
Lamine Yamal steps into McDonald's, looks left, sees Pulisic, looks right, sees Jimenez. Gives a nod to Ronaldinho in the corner with a FIFA World Cup meal. Ronaldinho sees Son in the booth. Son finds Beckham going for extra Big Mac sauce. He's got Davies at the table just behind him. Davies going for his collectible cup. Oh, a steal by Henry, who pulls his own collectible cup. Collect one of 9 legendary cups with a FIFA World Cup meal.
At participating McDonald's for a limited time while supplies last. All rights reserved. 2026 McDonald's at FIFA World Cup 2026.
It's really cool.
Hello and welcome to the Rosbif Rugby Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things French rugby, top 14 Pro de National, the Champions and Challenge Cups, the brilliant French national team, and of course all the towns, cities, bars, restaurants, fan stadia, weather this week that makes the French rugby experience so sublime. Rob, the French domestic rugby season, the marathon season is over, and we'll get stuck into the top 14 final in just a moment. But how are you, and have you survived the heat wave?
Survived the heat wave. They managed to sort out the aircon last week. I know everyone was on tenterhooks. Will Rob be in 28-degree office all week? Well, it kind of got quite hot again on Friday, but yeah, survived that. It was obviously pretty blooming warm. Had a very long day. Well, it wasn't actually that hot on Saturday in the end, but I had an incredibly long day out in the heat that was there. When I say it wasn't that hot, it was probably 30 something, wasn't it? So
yeah, it was toasty stuff.
That was a long day.
Very good. And you got a little bit of cricket in on Saturday?
Yeah, that's what that was not just a little bit of cricket, full 7 plus hours of cricket that did not need to be that long, and meant that I was in danger of a game as I said to you, a game of that length that started at midday. I should not have been cutting it fine to watch the top 14 final starting at 8 o'clock, but I think I sat down at about 7:55 at the cricket club to watch it. But yeah, what did you get up to on Saturday? You had a very odd day out and about. I say odd. Yeah,
was it an odd day? I went and watched a few of the guys you used to play cricket with. Probably the closest ground to me, being a little bit more southeast London.
Probably closest ground to me as well.
Yeah. So yeah, nipped down there for a little bit. First of puppy classes was cancelled because of the heat, which is kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Opportune, because we've just been delayed by this because the dog's gone absolutely batshit for the last 10 minutes. So bit of work to be done there, it's fair to say. And one cancelled session didn't help, but we're getting there. And otherwise, yeah, very, very quiet weekend. And thoroughly enjoyed the top 14 final, it must be said.
You say quiet weekend. It wasn't rowdy at the where was it? But the kneecap pop-up.
Oh, yeah. They have a load of gigs in Crystal Palace. And Friday night was Two Door Cinema Club, bit of indie, probably like our era indie, I guess. And then it was Kneecap on Saturday. A lot of Island shirts, a lot of GAA shirts knocking about. And then it was The Offspring last night.
No way.
For fans of that kind of American...
Do you think there's anyone that is a fan of those? Do you think there's anyone that's gone to all three?
I'd imagine
you'd have an eclectic music taste.
Yeah, if they're your three favorite artists, then there's someone who's very, very happy. But it was some hot weather, and there were some people who'd gone very hard, very early ahead of the gig on Saturday.
That really shocks me.
Yeah,
the cab gig.
Yeah, Kel surprise. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure many of them made the top 14 final, unfortunately. But that's their loss. How do we want to tackle it? The jewel in the crown, the showpiece in the French rugby calendar.
Headlines, Richard. What are the facts?
The facts are Toulouse have won a fourth in a row. What is it? It's
we spoke frankly ridiculous, isn't it? In terms of
8 out of the last, or 7 out of the last 8, or 6 out of the last 7.
2019 obviously wasn't in 2020. They won in 2021, 2023, 24, 25, 26. 7 out of the last 8 that have been contested, with Montpellier being the other team.
Yeah, pretty extraordinary stuff. 28-20, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a fantastic occasion. What about you? What are your headlines, or how do you want to take it on?
I guess like the other facts, like the Jack Willis man of the match, again officially recognised as a man of the match in the final and the semi-final. But also Toulouse's finals record, they've not lost a final of any sort since Biarritz in 2006.
Quite extraordinary,
20 years,
isn't it?
And like when you've contested that many as well, it's not like
snuck through a couple.
Montpellier haven't lost a final since, I don't know, probably quite recently. So they've probably got quite a good record in finals. I've seen them win a final at Twickenham. But yeah, it's something like 11 or 13, or I don't know. It's double figures number of finals when you factor in the Champions Cup ones as well. Yeah, so okay, I've got a few kind of bits and bobs for questions, Richard, that I was kind of thinking of how to frame it. Did Toulouse win this final, or did Montpellier lose it?
Oh, I think Toulouse won it. That's notwithstanding that Montpellier made a few mistakes. But I thought they were, to me watching it kind of had a few echoes of the game I went to at Twickenham. Not necessarily in terms of the style, but in terms of looking at two sides, and for all their possession that Montpellier had, I never was watching that ever really feeling like they were going to win it. And I think Toulouse were clinical when they needed to. Their defence in the first half was outstanding, and they did what they had to do. So that would be, in short, I think Toulouse won it and were great value for it.
You mentioned it kind of there. Do you think it was good defence, or do you think Montpellier's attack was quite limited? Or do you think it was?
I thought no. Obviously, I think they created enough chances, or they created enough entries, and maybe the fact that where it turned in the second half came through like the little Miotti chip to try something a bit different, and I think they showed that they had a bit more there. But also they've their power game has crippled sides through the year, so I think it was fair not to go wheeling the ball about, and I think they showed a little bit later on what they can do ball in hand.
I just think, like, I guess the Miotti chip over the top was kind of the only bit of invention that we saw from Montpellier. Like I think I said in one of my previews, they're not the sort of team that is going to shred teams apart in attack. They're not going to, like, one of the Toulouse weaknesses that has become more apparent this season has been some of their defence in the centres, and they were never going to test Toulouse's defence in the centres in the way that Poe or Racing, and Racing didn't, but they should have done, Poe or Racing or Clermont or maybe Stade Francais could have done as well. They've got, and obviously Bordeaux would have definitely challenged them in the outside channels. But then they were never the sort of team that was going to expose any like misconnections and people flying out the line and stuff like that, because there weren't any backs moves. It was just any time it went to the backs, it was just shipping it along the lines out to the flanks to try and see if they could get round. But there was there was very, very little deception in. Whereas you look at the tries that certainly, like the one that Dupont finished off, which is just an unbelievably well executed backs move, the one that involves kind of Kinghorn looping round. But there's so many dummy lines being run by Malvaca and I think Flamont and no, it wouldn't be Flamont. But there's the forwards are all running dummy lines. There's different shapes being thrown. There's slick handling. There's straightening up and attacking the line and stuff like that. Like, I guess not the first try, not the Malvaca one, but they nearly score, don't they, in the corner that Talfa Fanua gets back, where there's just Miafu, but there's just such an amazing dummy line from, I think it might be Malvaca or it might be one of the props. And then Labelle just pops up behind, and that is the space that the ball gets lifted into by Miafu. That is just a backs move or a training move, and we didn't see any of that from Montpellier. And I think to win a final, you either got to execute your game plan absolutely perfectly, or you have to have just a little bit more invention. You need a spark to do something, and that came a little bit late from Montpellier, and it was only ever like the Collie one is there's just a gap in the defense from Barassi for whatever reason. And I guess the other thing in terms of did they show any spark, I don't think necessarily they did. I don't think they had that in their locker, certainly against that Toulouse defence. I think the Toulouse defence was exceptional in the first half in terms of, but again, their main attack is just big guys around the fringes. And that's where the likes of Miafu, Netty, Merkler, Malvaca were just banging blokes. Like, they were so good in defence. The other thing, I guess, that I kind of said, if you're going to win a final, you need to absolutely execute your game plan. Do you think they did that?
I don't think they were given the opportunity to do it. Like, they weren't far off. I mean, ultimately, at the end, they've come up 8 points short against a team with far more international pedigree, far more attacking spark. And I think I agree that maybe they could have shown a little bit more, but they did react fairly quickly at 25-6 down or whatever. And I think you're talking about it there, like just the sheer aggression in defence of some of the Toulouse side was so they didn't. I think Montpellier generally got a little bit on top, like certainly in the scrum, and probably weren't quite rewarded for it. But they never had the real overwhelming ascendancy that gave them the space. Whereas Toulouse don't really need that. They can kind of go from kind of nothing, right? I don't think the game plan was flawed, and they were never going to come in with something else. I think something we did both say though was like they're probably not in the same way like a Bordeaux, maybe even a Stade Francais, certainly a Toulouse. They're never gonna. They don't tend to have those periods of 3-4 tries in 10-15 minutes, and going down the way they did it, at one point looked like it could have been really, really ugly. And actually, I think they adjusted quite well after that. But ultimately, they probably, they didn't quite have it their own way, which they have done through this amazing run they've been on up front, both at the line out, and then maybe the area they did have a bit more ascendancy. They weren't quite given the fruits of that at the scrum from the referee, but also I think Merkler and Netty and the guys who came off the bench held up pretty well.
Yeah, I think it's not so much like their game plan was wrong for me. It was that they weren't able to fully get the dominance with their game plan that they have done in the past. So their game plan was the right game plan to try and beat Toulouse. And as much as I've criticised their lack of invention and attack, that's not their forte. They didn't get the scrum dominance, and they didn't fully execute their line out perfectly. And as much as they perhaps weren't rewarded for some of their scrum dominance, they also did concede some penalties that were legit, that were like Toulouse, pulled a couple out the bag, I think, on their own or inside their own 22, didn't they, that were exceptional. So I think it showed the limitations that they have in terms of once plan A doesn't work, what happens then? And the plan A has been blooming effective all season, and it could well have been blooming effective in this game, but Toulouse were too clinical when they did get the chances. Like, there weren't, other than that one where Taufifenua somehow gets back to deny Lebel and then intercept the pass, which is an amazing, basically the one good thing he did in the whole game.
Had a bit of a stinker, didn't it?
But it was an incredible, like, as soon as Lebel breaks through, you're like, this is try. That's try. And that's from 50 metres out. You're like, they're scoring a try here. But yeah, you didn't see Toulouse cocking up too many, like, in the Montpellier 22 or not coming away with 3 points or whatever, whereas Montpellier had a load of 22 entries and didn't execute. And I think if you have got a limited game plan, you've got to execute that better.
Yeah, and they're also turned over however many times by Jack. Well, some of their own doing, but also by particularly Jack Willis and Mayafu and one or two others in really good positions. And that was, I don't think that's a game plan problem. That's just the quality of speed of thought and ability to execute on those jackals, which was, really, really impressive from Toulouse.
That brings me on to my next question. Do you think that Toulouse got the rub of the green? Do you think there are Montpellier fans out there going, we got done by the refereeing team?
I don't know about done. I think there were. There was
a lot. There was also, and Tim was mentioning it a lot on commentary. There was a lot of appealing from Montpellier just in open play, let alone some of the breakdown stuff. And we've also talked about the scrum, and we haven't even mentioned the Lebel yellow card yet. So, do you think there are Montpellier fans? If there are any Irish, South African, or Kiwi Montpellier fans, surely they're blaming the ref.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I can see some of the scrums. Maybe yes. I don't think there was anything. Okay, it's only 8 point margin, so it feels like a decision or two the other way. But that's just it. Like I really don't think the Lebel one. I thought the whole thing was quite a strange little saga. My initial thought on the first bit of the replay was that Ulysses, who's tracking back, kind of runs away from the ball to go across Lebel to start with, and then Lebel is all over him. So I think there are. So I think
you're allowed to do that though. He's just got in front of him and.
I don't know, but if I'm thinking of,
he's not obstructing him. Like he's just.
He is if you run across.
Line. Yeah.
But I mean, I think if that wasn't seen, then I can see why it wasn't given as a penalty try because the ball.
Why? Because I can't see why. If it's a yellow card, why is it not a penalty try?
I think because the ball.
There's no obvious
rolling out of play.
I guess for a penalty try, it needs to be kind of almost certain that they've stopped a try scoring opportunity. And I don't know who the next person is there on the scene. Is it a Toulouse player? Like if it is, then it's probably not a penalty try.
Yeah. What I would say though is that even if there's a nuance there, I'm not saying I saw some sort of magic nuance in it, but like it's the sort of thing that is usually given as a penalty try. I'll give it that. Like it looks like, if it's one, it's definitely both. But
I think if you're giving someone a yellow card
on the try line,
2 centimeters from the try line, for a cynical piece, they've given it for a cynical piece of play, right? Like that's a professional foul. It's not. Yeah, that's why he's got the yellow card, and it's so close to the line. And that is 7 points, and that's at that point. Toulouse play the 14-man period really well. Yeah, just lumping it long. Mainly Dupont just lumping it long from the base, and then they defended brilliantly with Willis.
Yeah, they were outstanding.
Stuff. The other thing, slightly related to that, we did have a fairly unique situation in this top 14 final of a rain delay. You're looking at me quizzically then. I was wondering what else was there.
I was thinking there was something else. Yeah.
The weather delay, which I'm surprised it was as short as it was, if I'm honest, because I know in cricket, if there's thunder and lightning, it's like 45 minutes off. In the Lions tour, it was something similar, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a big old chunk of time off.
And there was a lot of lightning going on, and they went off for like 5 minutes.
Such a French approach, isn't it?
Can we see any lightning now? No. Right, let's get on with it then.
Yeah, and no beers inside the stadium.
Yeah, exactly. So everyone was fully sober doing it.
Get on with the game. It was unusual, wasn't it? But you're right.
Do you think that took some of the momentum out of Montpellier's fight back? Because there weren't a lot of points scored after that in the final quarter, which was basically what was left to play, was there?
I did it. I don't know. I don't know. I wasn't watching it thinking, "Oh, this is like a crew." I know they were in a pretty decent field position, didn't they? Albeit, I think it was a Toulouse scrum they
Yeah.
restarted with. It wasn't a point in the game where at the time I was like, "Oh no, this is Montpellier done. All that momentum has gone." Maybe it did. Couldn't tell you.
I think I feel the same. It's just it occurred to me today when I was thinking about how to frame this final. You're like, hang on, that happened, and Montpellier were on quite a good comeback, and then because like rewatching it, the last 20 minutes is a bit dead. There's not a lot that happens. Certainly, the last 10, barely anything happens. Toulouse are really just, whether it's scrum resets or kicking the ball out of play, there is not a lot of action in the last 10 minutes.
I think it's just so much fatigue as well, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's so hot. What was it in Paris? It was like
30 something.
30 odd degrees at night.
11 o'clock at night.
Like crazy heat. It felt, I know what you mean. It kind of felt like it was, no one was going to break it open either way in that last 10 minutes, and maybe that did. To be honest, honestly I hadn't even thought about it until you mentioned it then.
No, I kind of hadn't really thought about it at all. I guess we've kind of spoken generally quite a lot about Montpellier, but Toulouse were the winners in this, and I think we saw, like we mentioned it at the top, like how their finals record, and Joe Worsley kind of referenced that, how it was kind of referenced how many finals he'd been in and how you feel, and he's always like, oh, he looks nervous and stuff like that. Like, Toulouse did look fairly comfortable. I don't know if Montpellier looked nervous or not. I'm not qualified to say, but there was an element of this kind of aristocracy, or like the nature of this dynasty, where it's like we know that we can pounce at the right time. We know that if we tune up in defence and we're on it, we know that we're going to win, basically. Like, there was a kind of confidence about their play. The fact they executed those backs moves, the fact they executed that brilliant line-out move, and Malvaka's then dummying Taufifenua for the try. Like, that is sheer confidence.
Yeah, I think...
And this was like Toulouse at their best, I think, in a way. Like, well, maybe not quite at their absolute. They're not how they played Racing, but we saw some brilliantly physical defence. We saw some aggressive counter-rucking, which has been a key factor in a lot of their knockout games when they've won. We saw like some invention. We saw some unbelievable tactical kicking from Dupont and Entomac. I thought I've gone full 180 on Entomac. I'm now a fan, having been Entomac skeptic for years. I can see it now. He's playing some wonderful rugby at the moment, and it's the way that how controlled him and Dupont look together. I get it now. I find, how many times they played together? Like hundreds of times, something like 50 times for France. No, maybe not.
Yeah, it's quite a lot, isn't it?
But yeah, I just think like execution of a finals game plan was perfect, I think.
Yeah, and
Willis wasn't at Willis and Miafu defensively, and Malvaka were absolute freaks. I thought the tight five in defence were banging people, and then Willis at the breakdown was silly good. Like, is like world class, absolutely world class.
They were utterly brilliant, and particularly in that first half. And I think that's why actually it was quite impressive for Montpellier to drag it back in the way they did, because there's a point there where it looks like it's going to be a 50-10 or something like that. I mean, it's such a cliche, but you just look at the side they put out, and it's a bit like when, obviously Bordeaux were incredible run in the Champions Cup and were sublime in their win over Toulouse. But I remember before that kind of thinking, like, really, how many games should this Toulouse team ever lose? when you look at it. They've
lost a hell of a lot more this season than I thought they were going to.
Yeah,
there were points early on that I was like, they are not going to lose a game all season.
But yeah, when it does click, and then with the Malvaka try, I think when something like that goes to plan in the first, it was like the 6th minute of the game, when like one of your set plays and you see your hooker dancing over from 50 meters, the confidence that instills in you to, go after what is to that point certainly had been statistically the best defense in the league, and you've kind of romped home with your first kind of set play. what that did for them, and yeah, there were so many. Yeah, the tries they scored were fabulous. Like the pace they played with. You're right. The only thing that didn't quite go to plan was the brilliant tackle by Talfa Fanua on the bell, and that was like a beautifully worked move. And yeah, there was just no jitteriness. And I mean, you said at the top, what is it? Seven out of the last 8, 6 out of the last 7. Throwing a couple of Champions Cups during that time as well. And yeah, I thought they were fantastic.
Yeah. I think the other thing that was impressive about the Montpellier comeback, so we were split before, and I was kind of quite fairly adamant throughout the week that I just couldn't understand where people were saying this 14-point margin, or 2 scores, or considerably more than 10 points. I just couldn't get my head around, because Montpellier, their defense has been so good, and I thought their game plan was good to take on Toulouse. And then, towards the end of that first half, and I think Montpellier cough it up, don't they? They've got a chance.
Yeah.
And you're like, right, well, that's it then. This is going to be like the Bordeaux game a couple of years ago all over again. So it was impressive for Montpellier. I'm glad Montpellier came back into it. I mean, I would quite like to have seen another 60-point win. It was quite good fun watching Toulouse in that sort of style. But yeah, ultimately they were 8 points short. And the gap, that feels like a fair gap, I think, for that game. That feels like that was the gap between
score and a bit.
Yeah.
I kind of agree. I mean, we've spoken about, I think we've highlighted them throughout, but some fantastic individual performances. Obviously, Toulouse, Malvaca, Willis, man of the match, Meafu were all brilliant. You mentioned Netty, he really got himself about, didn't he?
I thought Teddy Thomas was great as well.
He's had such a brilliant season.
Yeah.
Like, he's just been fantastic to watch. It seems so obvious now, but what a brilliant bit of recruitment as well. Yeah. You just kind of thought this guy's going to be surplus to requirements. Probably any other team in the league starts. He was actually very good at 13, wasn't he, last year for La Rochelle? And it's like maybe that's his position, or maybe that could be his position going forward. And he's been absolutely immaculate, like going into that setup. Everyone knows the quality and the depth of coaching through the entire Toulouse system, and not that Teddy Thomas in his own right is an outstanding player and has shown it so many times. But I didn't think he was going to be a key man this season and in a final for Toulouse when he signed. I thought he was part of the wider squad, and brilliant player.
Yeah. I thought Billy V played really well. Thought Nucci was, he might not have had quite the impact that he's had in some games, but he was still really physical, ball in hand. I think I've realised over the last couple of weeks, I didn't realise how good a line-out athlete he was. He doesn't look like he should be, but then he also kind of doesn't look like he should be that dynamic ball in hand. So I want to get something off my chest about Tom Banks that I've had for years, and this is the reason why I never liked him before, and why I've kind of always been quite dismissive of him. He has this silly routine to kick for touch, and then he does this proper wind up or sets it up, and it's looks very scientific, and then just knobs it, or just taps
just
it
standard.
20. He just swings. No, it's not quite like that. It's just this really boring kick 20 meters. It's not like Slade has a bit of a wind up, doesn't he? And he's kind of, the shorts go up a bit and the shoulders go back, and then he unfurls a 70-meter kick. You don't get Tom Banks is just nudging it 25 meters, and there was the one that was at the end of the first half. He does one of his it's almost like Aussie rules type thing, the way he sets up to kick it, and he's he gets to 7 meters, and they always talk about the difference between 7 meters and 5 meters. As close as he is, he should get it right in the corner, and yeah, I just think it annoys me. His setup annoys me. And
at least you've got to the root of your slightly sort of irrational distrust of Tom Banks. Good to know that there's something behind it.
Which you'll see it now, and you'll be like, yeah, that is annoying. And why does he not just leather it? And why do they give it to him if he's just not? Because they nail, they get one right down in the corner, which is from Collie, right near the end, that they then balls up the line out. That's an unbelievable. And that's from 50 meters. Why is Collie not doing it? I don't know. Anyway, that was my little mini rant about Tom Banks. On that, quite a good game.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, incredible. But it was ultimately it was a fantastic final. It looked like it was going to be. There've been some real blowouts in knockout games recently, and that wasn't the case. It was, I think, particularly with the way the second half started, with Montpellier scoring quickly, it very quickly became quite gripping, having felt like it was gonna just slide into this sort of one-sided affair. So yeah, really, really enjoyed it. I also enjoyed beforehand. And I've got very little time without being too political for sort of personality politicians. But God, I'd love to be a fly on the wall or the shoulder of the conversations between Macron as he's shaking. He looks like basically looks like a bloke who's kind of had like one rogue night out with every single one of the people he's shaking hands with, and just like looks at all of them and they with this kind of knowing expression.
Oh, do you remember that one night that we had in Chez Tonton?
Yeah, it's that kind of thing.
I think wasn't it when they said that Manny Miafi was joking about his passport?
Trying
to get a French passport.
I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. But it was, it was quite the departure from, like, the various Six Nations dignitaries.
Yeah, the Prime Minister of Ireland or President of Ireland or whatever it is.
Yeah, it was quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, too right. I also enjoyed the dancing before in random rugby kit and having. Yeah. There's a guy who gets a lot of airtime at the front who is like there's enough of a resemblance to Zinedine Zidane to think like, surely not.
They've snuck him in.
It's obviously not, but I was like, he does look. Imagine if it was just him, just going like all arms and legs. Anyway, the summary of the final kind of, and you talk about it being a good game and there not being a blowout. I kind of wanted to summarize feelings about the top 14 this season generally. I don't quite know how to put into words kind of all of the feelings I feel about the top 14, but how would you sum up this season? Like, how do you feel about it now that this top 14 finishes? Top 14 season has finally finished.
I think I've certainly learned that it's maybe a slightly it's a slower burner in the sense of the judgments you make within the league than perhaps I'd given credit for in the past. I think given the length of it, given some teams competing on two fronts, others not, for a long time it all felt quite formulaic, maybe not the word, because actually this year we saw a bit like we did in Pro Day Deux last year. It feels like there were some really exciting away wins this year. And it feels also to me like within the league, there's like a greater concentration of quality. And I think that's, the fact that 5 teams this year in the barrage were 5, or there were 5 new teams in the barrage this year. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't think that's because all other teams became useless. I think, there's a lot of nuance in there as to how individual seasons went. Bordeaux competing on two fronts, injuries, likes of Cast and Toulon and Bayonne.
I think Cast and Toulon didn't rest, did they? I don't think they were necessarily that much worse than they were.
No, not at all. But I think this season, just that middle, basically between Toulouse at the top and Perpignan and Montauban, some way behind that. And we saw it even like the kind of likes of Lyon put in some pretty decent performances, didn't they, quite consistently? So I think, I've learned not to read too much into it. I think started to maybe see some like slightly kind of deeper quality of some of those kind of changed up away sides as well, which is exciting for the league. And also, there's not too much point trying to call it too hard either way until the last 6 weeks, like La Rochelle's run, Toulon's plummet, Bordeaux not making it. I mean, I think the whole time we've been doing this podcast, probably until the last 4 months, we were pretty locked in that everything kind of goes Toulouse, Bordeaux, Toulon, and then the rest. And it's been fantastic that that's not happened this year. I don't know if I've answered your question. Probably not.
No, you have. You have. I think I feel like I'm slightly less positive about it because yes, the quality's gone up, but we also had 2 really, really bad teams this year, and there were a lot of blowouts, and not just Perpignan and Montauban. So I know that like points record, Toulouse broke a points record. They played Montauban twice. Like that, they didn't break a points record because of Montauban. I think and you mentioned it earlier in the season, there was one point where we based like the Sunday night game had basically been 50 points plus
6 weeks in a row or 7 weeks in a row or something.
Just basically we'd got to about halfway and there'd not been a single interesting Sunday night game, which there was thinking back to like January, and the flip side of it is that the run-in is amazing, and you've got all these teams fighting on two different fronts, and you've got French or top 14 winners of Champions Cup and Challenge Cup. But for so many parts of the season, I was just so fed up of like seeing some of the away sides being put out, and particularly that Sunday night game. Teams were just like throughout the season, some of the sides that were sent away from home from certain clubs was pretty dire, really. Like it really was waving the white flag before. Some of the Montauban ones were properly like, and I kind of do get that, but it doesn't make it any less disappointing. That said, I think you're right on the competitiveness of the league, and I think I'm also coming at it slightly from the perspective of a Po fan, of like there were so many potential storylines that could have happened, and one of them could have been Po making a final, or like Po making semi-finals, or it just feels quite, I don't know, it feels quite odd that none of Bordeaux, Po, to a lesser extent Clermont, were in the semi-finals. Like that feels kind of underwhelming. Like they've played some really good rugby, and I know I mentioned this last week or a couple of weeks ago with the barrage, but yeah, just there's something slightly underwhelming that Toulon and Bordeaux didn't even make the top six, and that Bordeaux, who are to a lot of people's views, are the best club team in the world. The fact that they didn't make the barrage is something a little bit underwhelming about it, and a little bit unpremium, I'd say. The fact, and as good as I know Montpellier have been really, really good, and I think Montpellier arguably do deserve it because they were so good throughout the season and they had a game plan. But there's also something a little bit underwhelming that the second best team in France was this like utterly limited side. I don't know. I like having seen some amazing. Seen some amazing rugby at times this season from the likes of Bordeaux, Po, Clermont, Stade Francais. I know it's like for some people there is a hell of a lot of beauty in what Montpellier do. I get that, but for me, how I feel.
Fair enough.
How would you rate it? Kind of rank it, or out of 10, or
I'd probably like an 8 out of 10 season. I think there were 3 teams who didn't even qualify for the Champions Cup last year who made the barrage. I think that shows for some of the particularly earlier in the season team selections, which I think is where it's frustrating. Whereas although in actual fact, I think what we see is it's such a drawn out year that you do need to kind of maybe concentrate things towards the back end when it starts to shake out a little bit more. But I think that was really exciting. I think you can also get ahead
of the pack. Like I said, like Po, I think everyone caught them up back end of the season. I don't think they got any worse. I just think other teams improved, but they were ahead. They had the margin for error in terms of the top 6 race because they were so good in the first half of the season, where they were putting out strong sides away from home and getting results at Cast away, Bordeaux away, that sort of thing. Like there is an element of, if you go full noise in those early, one win is an equal amount.
Yeah, of course. Of course it is. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And I thought, the makeup of the last 6 was not what we expected. I think the real disappointment was the lack of jeopardy at the bottom, which we anticipated, but probably not to the extent. I think with Perpignan being so cut adrift as well, it was like a kind of perfectly bad storm of, from about 8 weeks in, we kind of knew what was going to happen.
Well, look how bad Bayonne were for basically 3 or 4 months. They were really poor, if not more. And they were never in threat of getting relegated. I know, like they got early wins. They were second after like round 7 or whatever. But Lyon and Bayonne were so bad for parts of the season, and they were never maybe that comes into some of the team selections because they they knew they could, and they could just, someone like Leon, they can just go full noise at home and hopefully get a good crowd in, and who cares about what happens away, which is which is Leon basically seemed to have done for as long as they've been in the top 14. So I think that was the lack of jeopardy really allowed for some real mediocrity at the bottom end of that league table, or like the lower third, kind of not. It was the teams immediately above Perpignan that could get away with being quite poor and never being under threat of any relegation. Look, kind of like we saw with the Prem, right? Like you don't normally get the kind of, in the top 14, you don't normally get like this year's equivalents of like Harlequin, Sale and Gloucester, do you? You don't normally you might get Leon or a Bayonne or someone, you might get one of them, but you don't normally get like 2 or 3 or maybe even 4, like if you look at how poor Toulon were at various points of the season as well.
Yeah, I feel like you're slightly disappointed by the whole affair, Rob.
Yeah, shit, mate. I'm going to give it all up.
Still smarting from Racing.
Still bitter,
Racing getting past pay.
Still bitter. No, I'm very hopeful for next year, I have to say. Because Van will be much stronger. But I also think I'm intrigued to see I don't hold out too much hope for Bayonne or Leon, but I'm very intrigued to see what happens next with Castres, Toulon, Clermont, Bordeaux have got to come back stronger. I'm intrigued to see where a lot of these teams go next year.
Yeah, and I think some of these sides as well, and I'd count Montpellier, Pau, Racing, Stade to back it up. Yeah, it's really difficult. Like we've kind of seen almost like a total reverse, right, of that chasing pack and their fortunes, and really difficult. I think like we're seeing increase. Like it's genuinely incredibly difficult to compete on 2 fronts, certainly with the Champions Cup, is very, very tricky. So, yeah, we will see. But, it'll probably start, in about 6 days' time, the next top 14. So, yeah, we won't have too long to wait.
I think there's also something slightly underwhelming about, as good as it is that they've won 4 in a row, there is something slightly underwhelming about Toulouse winning it again.
Yeah. And I think at the start
in a season where it genuinely looked like there could be a new winner at various points. Like I'd convinced myself that Stade Francais were going to win it at one point. I'd convinced myself that Montpellier were going to win it at one point. I'd obviously convinced myself that Pau were going to win it at one point. And for long parts of the season, I thought this was Bordeaux's year. And yet we end up with Toulouse winning relatively comfortably. And, they're all the merch is ready to go. Back, full back.
Back, full back is... It makes me want to.
It's not a good one, is it?
Oh, it's appalling. It's appalling, but we'll let him off.
I did quite enjoy that Peter Aki was in the crowd, though.
Yes, featured a lot on. They cut to him a lot in the crowd. Shall we wrap the top 14 there?
Yes.
Yeah. What a year. Still got a couple of grounds to get to. Perpignan and Toulon for me.
I've got Toulon. That's it.
On the agenda for next year.
This is going to be an extremely busy month. I have to watch 104 soccer games, follow the pregame, the postgame, yell useless opinions at the TV. It's a lot. So I knew that when it comes to screening for colon cancer, the choice was clear. The Cologuard Plus test. It can be used at home and can only take 15 minutes, so I can do it during halftime and not miss any action. If you are 45 or older and at average risk, ask your healthcare provider about screening for colon cancer with the Cologuard test. You can also request a prescription at Cologuard.com.
Do you want to roll? Should we roll straight in then? Because actually, a few of the guys who played in this game have been added to France's. I was going to say Autumn Nations. It's not the Nations Championship. Is that what it's called?
One person has been added and then withdrawn.
Yeah, no, Antoine Dupont.
Tony D. He's got a calf injury.
Replaced by Paul Grau, deputy at Toulouse. Not quite sure if that's Baptiste Jeannot is in Ibiza or something, or not, on a mad one somewhere.
Did he get injured in the France A game?
I didn't. I thought he got left out of the squad for Dupont.
You're right.
I wonder if
he got left out for Luku.
I thought he got left out, or he was omitted from the 2 that were picked because they were going Luku, Legaric, and taking Dupont was the signal. Grau added. Who else? We've got from Montpellier, Florian Vahai.
Yeah.
He's had a very good
and
season.
Lenny
Nucci and Auguste Cadot.
Yeah. Who has also had a really good season.
He's been brilliant, yeah. And
he's a
pulled
really
off
good defender.
A sublime sleight of hand David Blaine offload in this one, which was very, very cool. And then from a Toulouse perspective, we've already mentioned Grau in place of Antoine Dupont. And who else have we got in there, Rob?
Calvin Gorge, Manny Miafu, Piato Malvaca, Roman Entamac, and Alexandra Rumat.
Oh, I actually hadn't noticed Rumat was going. So,
do you know who's not in there, which I'm quite glad about?
Thomas Ramos. No.
Oh, yeah.
Thibaut Flamand.
Yeah. I was going to say Pierre-Louis Barassi seems to have slipped down the pecking order.
Slipped down the order, yeah.
I assume Ramos is a minutes thing.
I'm
surprised. I'm really surprised Miafu's in there. I would have thought he's played a lot of minutes because he's actually played quite a lot of the league games, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I would have thought he's played more than Flamand.
Yeah, maybe.
Surprised Josh Brennan's not. Josh Brennan might have played quite a lot of minutes, to be fair. No, because he was injured for ages.
Start of the year.
Yeah. No, Julien Marchand. That will be rest, I'd imagine.
Yes. Yeah.
Netty, I'd imagine, is similar. Aldeguiri, who knows? That might be a selection call. Might be minutes. Yeah. Francois Cross as well, not selected. So Rumat ahead of Cross.
Guessing that feels minutesy as well. I think, and also I feel like Gauthier.
Cross didn't play for like half a season.
Well, I think he knows, but he knows what he's going to get from Francois Cross. So New Zealand this weekend, I think kicks off like a 6-match day of rugby, give or take. There's you can properly park yourself on the sofa this weekend if you want to. You can sort of keep that step count below 100 and watch a lot of rugby. All Blacks followed by Australia and then Japan, if I've got the order right.
Yeah, that's right.
Which would make sense from a travel logistics perspective rather than nipping to Japan halfway.
So they're still in Australia, the France squad, because they are holding their first open training session tomorrow in Australia.
Where's that taking place?
I assume Brisbane, because that's where they've been.
Okay.
But I can tell you, as of 34 minutes ago, our friend Ilta Daffith on Blue Skies tweeted about this open training session. According to Midi Olympique, here is the team to face New Zealand on Saturday. Do you want to hear it?
Yes, go on.
Actually, I want to hear yours.
Oh, mate, I haven't scribbled anything down.
You need the squad list. Okay, you can tell me happy or not happy.
Yeah. Jefferson Poirot, happy.
Yes, yeah. Maxime Lamotte.
Happy.
Demba Bamba.
Oh, I quite like Demba Bamba, but I'm not sure. I think we've seen that quite a few times. Maybe he's not the answer at tight head, but we'll have another go.
Hugo Ordu.
Okay.
You're going to be happy about this one. Staniforth.
Oh, scenes.
Bosheton. Jegu. Gazzotti.
Wow, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to have the halfbacks we know, right? That's Lucas Jalibert.
Yeah.
Centres Mofana Deporter. The back three, I think you're going to like this. On the left wing is Aaron Grandidier Enkanang.
Yeah, nice.
On the right wing, Damien Penaud, and at fullback, Teo Asogbe.
That is nice.
That's quite a fun backline,
that's a hell of a backline.
So if it is that, the return of Damien Penaud, obviously very cool. Mofana and Deporter, very cool. Unless you're a Poe fan, you feel robbed. But I assume FBB or Guyton will be on the bench, I'd imagine.
Yeah, the 23 jersey.
But ultimately, they're playing the All Blacks. I think what I'm surprised about this generally is that France are going for it in a way. Like it kind of, I know it's like it's the Nations Championships, new competition. It's meant to be amazing. This whole World Rugby thing. I kind of assumed that France were just going to do what they normally do and send a development squad, which is there is an element of that, but that's just the top 14 and the fact that these two players have literally just finished playing and then. They've got to go to Chez Tonton and drink a load of pastis before they get on a flight as well. So, yes, for the All Blacks, it's not quite the Premier France side, but there's something quite cool about the fact it does have Luku and Jalibert and Deporter and Mofana and Damien Penaud. A lot of these guys don't play in the Southern Hemisphere that often.
Yeah.
Dupont has played one game in the Southern Hemisphere and one international game.
Yeah, literally one.
Yeah,
it's I think it's great, and also I've kind of there's always this slightly weird hemispheres rivalry, which never quite to me it's always a little bit strange.
It's all very Twitter, isn't it?
But I do get it to an extent in terms of autumn internationals over here. Like you never see a substandard South Africa sides, you never see load of guys rested from, there might be
New Zealand, you get like a youngster, don't you?
or something that means someone else comes through, but you don't get wholesale development squads. And I know there are reasons behind it, but it also doesn't mean that fans of those countries should just sit there and go, oh, okay, cool. So I think it's really exciting. I also think, one of the things we've seen with France is that maybe in the last few years, actually the depth for France is not a problem. It's not they don't have the top end quality. That's obviously not the case. But I think this is a really important. The All Blacks game in particular, even missing some, still think it's really important because certainly in the last 12 to 18 months, and they're obviously coming from a very high bar. But France, I wouldn't say they haven't won a game that they shouldn't have. That they were second favourite in. So got brushed aside basically by the Springboks at home. Scotland away looked tricky, got blown away there and conceded. They won, but conceded whatever it was, 40 points at home to France. So I think to England, the Stade de France. So I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot on it. And some of those guys there are, regardless of the fact they haven't played huge amounts of international rugby, I think we look at for ages and say that person would get in a lot of other international sides, and it's
like a Hugo Orode, for example.
There's so many of them. Many of them.
Atis Ogbe now is a first choice, but I'll try not to pick a Poplar. Like someone like Gazzotti, right? That people have been talking about Gazzotti for ages. Boschton has been amazing in the Champions Cup this season. Yeah, these are like Poirot. There's a lot of guys there that have been some of the best players in the top 14 and or the Champions Cup this season.
Yeah.
Someone like Staniforth has been so good and he had a horrible injury, but he's been so good for so long in the top 14. Presumably that he's looking good to play in Australia as well, which would be really cool.
I'm surprised. I don't know, it may be a tactical thing, but I would assume, particularly given how amazing he was last summer, Mikel Guillard would have been in the 5 jersey, but maybe
that's a good point.
Holding him back on the bench.
He's not in the to not be starting. Well, that's Midi Olympique. They're normally pretty good at getting it right, but the fact that they hold open training sessions helps with predicting France teams.
Yeah.
How do you? We don't really know what the All Blacks are gonna look like either. There's, it's a new era for them with a new coach. I think there's an element of this France side, again, for a summer tour, actually feels relatively settled, and the amount of Bordeaux combinations in there helps with that massively. Mm-hmm. When you've got 2 clubs represented in that back line, right? And you've got your midfield and your halfbacks are all the same club. So that's going to help a lot. But yeah, it's interesting. I think they kind of weirdly feel more settled than New Zealand. I don't think we really know who's going to be playing fly half for New Zealand.
Ruben Love, isn't it?
Is it going to be Ruben Love?
Supposed to be.
Barrett going to be on the bench?
Well, I don't know. That was what I haven't seen too much of it. I know that this Hurricanes team has been good, absolutely outstanding, right? So yeah, I don't know, and maybe that, not that I'm an expert on New Zealand rugby, but for so long you would kind of know pretty much sort of 14 of the 15, wouldn't you? And there's
then you might see a new guy that's been tearing it up and scored 15 tries in 10 Super Rugby games, and which I think is going to happen. I think Finian Ganofo is going to be playing. I don't know if he's any relation.
I was going to say to Tomasi.
Got no idea. Tomasi, the Argent guy, is Tongan, right? He plays for Tonga. So, and this guy's going straight into the All Blacks. So I would assume not. I don't know. I think it for people, it'll be interesting. There's always interesting when teams go to New Zealand about the media and the fans in New Zealand that basically knowing nothing about the touring side. And last year you could kind of forgive them for that with France, but I think the thing to note is that first test they pushed them really close, and the All Blacks are quite notoriously poor, slow starters in series, aren't they? They tend to struggle in that first game, and I wonder if this France team is significantly better than as good as Le Garrec and Segonza are, and Le Garrec and Segonza are. They're not Luca Jalibert. And they also don't play together as much as Luca and Jalibert. So, to see those guys, they are significantly better than what they had last year. So it'd be interesting and how close France pushed them in that first game. It should be an absolute belter, I think. Yeah. This is a proper France team to get. So I think the presence of Luca and Jalibert makes this a really cool France
100%.
team, because there have been times this season where I've looked at them and thought, if they're on it, if they're at 8 or 9 out of 10, they will win every single game, because the control and the invention and the pace they are able to play with is just so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it. Great way to start the weekend. Get stuck into that.
Who wins it? Having said that, I think New Zealand are going to win it. Who wins the nation? No, let's not go into that.
No.
I know we know too little about
France to sneak it. Why not?
That'd be epic.
Controversial.
Where is it? It's not in. It's Christchurch, isn't it?
Oh, I don't know.
I think it might be. I think there's a new stadium in Christchurch finally.
There is a new stadium. I've seen that. It looks very cool.
But it's not Eden Park, and that's kind of what I was getting at.
One New Zealand stadium.
That is Christchurch, I think. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, get stuck into that. There's still more rugby to go. The heat wave is upon us, or was upon us, but there's still plenty to go. Rob should come back in a moment. A couple of Petit-Fours to round us out.
Yes.
Tomorrow morning is knocking. Stock your fridge now. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or a sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel, maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
Alrighty, Rob, what has, beyond the weather, beyond the eccentric political handshakes, beyond the brilliant opening ceremony and the lack of pastis in the ground because of local laws, anything else that's been on your mind in the French rugby world?
So have you seen much in terms of celebrations other than their rings and their back four back?
Chez Tom, the tradition is alive and well.
Yeah, and they were all wearing, their theme this year was pink, which was slightly underwhelming compared to some of the previous ones, but it's always quite cool that they all go for the same outfit. But that's all I've seen. And the post-coital photo of Barassi and Kinghorn.
Yeah, it's quite. He's got Kinghorn quite likes that, doesn't he? A bit of old school kind of like
lads getting naked,
full frontal celebrations. Yeah.
And Naito Saito surfing the Brennus very, very soon after the final whistle. Although he is the lightest player in the squad, so
makes sense.
Too easy. I want to see them get Miafu up on there, see how they go with that. I've not seen loads of Toulouse celebrations, I have to say. We talked last week, Richard, about Saint-Sulpice-sur-Lez celebrating their victory in Fédéral 1. Well, the final from the week from last week in Fédéral 2 was between Leucate and Pont-Long, and it was in Pamiers. I don't know where that is, but the fans of Pont-Long who lost had a similar. Well, it wasn't a celebration. It was on their way to the game. There are a lot of tractors involved. Maybe this is the new thing in rural France, but it's like proud of our colours. There are Bayern flags flying absolutely everywhere, and quite the procession of tractors, it has to be said. Some have got balloons on them. Some have got messages saying like, well, I've just seen one says Liberté pour les ultras. Interesting. There's flares, there's flags, there's absolutely all sorts going on. It is carnage, quite frankly. And that is a fifth tier game. Fifth final, and this was the one that was at 10 a.m. because of the heat wave, I think.
Okay.
So they've had to go to the middle of nowhere with their tractors for 10 a.m. So, well, presumably like 8 a.m. but judging the kind of time they're going in. But I want to see more tractors in fan build-ups. I want them to park a tractor outside the Stade de Hameau and put some Bayern flags off it. That's what we need to see next. We need to see tractors outside these top 14 stadiums.
Yeah, nice.
That's the next step.
One of my mates at school drove a tractor to his GCSE exam and parked it outside the school, because I think you could. I don't know if you still can, but you could drive a tractor when you're 16. He was going to miss his exam, so had to come out of the exam to move it, because it was in the way of like a fire exit or something. Yeah, simpler times.
One thing about ultras, touched on there. Have you seen there's been quite a lot of it on X and a few things on Instagram. Have you seen the news about United BB?
I have not, no.
So UBB, Union Bordeaux-Bègles, have officially separated from the supporter group United BB, which I think is the biggest supporter group.
Okay.
Or is one of the biggest. It's certainly, like, when I book for tickets at Stade Chaban-Damas, I try and work out where they are sitting, because they are the rowdiest fans. And there was a press release last week. United BB are no longer recognised as one of the official supporter groups due to the number of incidents throughout the season. So in the final game at home to Clermont, there was a load of people charged security and someone got arrested who was like a part of the United BB. There were other incidents at Pau. I don't know about that one, but there was another incident at Toulon, and I saw that. I think I saw clips of like people there's some very upset people on Twitter being like, United BB, sort yourselves out, sort of thing. Kind of people being escorted out of stadium. So I think there's obviously been a bit of backlash from the supporter group themselves to be kind of like, look, we're really proud to support the club. We bring so much, and they do bring loads of atmosphere. And maybe it's kind of, could we not have just had a slap on the wrist sort of thing rather than officially unrecognising us? But I think it's quite obviously that's the biggest supporters club for the best supported team in the world, effectively, in terms of fans attendance. So
maybe a few more tickets available at Chaban-Delmas next year.
Maybe
every cloud. Only one thing from me, talking of people getting leery, one of our favourite players, or a couple of our favourite players, it was Joe Simmons' stag do over the weekend.
Yes.
In Ibiza.
Oh, wow.
And I was getting very teary-eyed, very nostalgic. It's like a rogues charter of old Exeter players, which are quite good fun. Johnny Hill of Racing 92 was there. Dave Ewers, Harry Williams, formerly of Pau and Montpellier. Obviously Sam Simmons, Alec Hepburn as well, who is in French style smoking a dart in this picture. He of both England and Scotland, which is quite interesting.
Yeah. A couple of other things. One thing I did see, so Canal Plus did some niche coverage, didn't they? They did an alternative broadcast that was focused on introducing rugby to new fans without getting lost in the complexities. It was a broadcaster and a former ref on main commentary, and they basically had like a random Canal Plus subscriber also in the booth to ask the stupid questions about the game. I'm so intrigued as to what that... Can you imagine what the equivalent would be like in the UK? Like,
it's like a sort of like the opposite of the old Sky Sports fan zone.
Yeah, it's the opposite of fan zone. You've basically got... And you just... This poor bloke, the people would find him on Twitter and he'd be getting pelters. Man or woman. It could be either. But like, it's like if you're asking like, oh, why are they passing the ball backwards? Like...
Yeah, nice.
I mentioned that the French national team were in Brisbane. There was quite a bit on like their social media. They did some kind of various different indoor activities, namely basketball, volleyball, and table tennis. And they did kind of like a Dans les yeux de, and they basically kind of did like not player cam, but like player view of basketball. They must have like got a GoPro on their foreheads or something. Basketball for Teo Atisogbe, they did it, and then Timo Mathieu did it for the volleyball, and then Aaron Grandidier did it for table tennis, but they were just playing around the world. Unsurprisingly, all three of them looked quite good at their disciplines. Like Atisogbe was like, there was other footage of Atisogbe playing basketball. He looked absolutely unbelievable. Timo Mathieu at volleyball looked quite good, and we know Aaron Grandidier is good at absolutely everything. They also, the reason why I know they're in Brisbane, because they went to watch the Brisbane Broncos last week. Their game they lost at home to Sydney Roosters. But yeah, I've got one other little thing that I shared with you during the week, which is going to be very hard to explain over the medium of a podcast. But I assume these were in preparation for the Festival de Pepusque, but the Urios custom designed glasses that one of his friends made for him. C'est comme danser en slow avec... I don't know what that quote is, but it looks intriguing. Christophe Urios is dancing with a woman. And then there is also a kind of him in a Bordeaux changing room with the quote, Moi, je suis pas un petit mec, which I think is quite famous. I saw like after the semi-finals, there was like, oh my God, what's the English bloke's name? The English bloke in Toulouse, what's his name? Monsieur Prof, is that his name?
Yes.
Yeah. It was like him, Bastereau, and someone else like saying Moi Je suis pas and Petit Mec in like various different styles. So I think it's like this, like the Merguez quote that that Urios has. I feel like there must have been at some point like a Neil Warnock style documentary that's been done by Urios. People seem to have these like Urios quotes like out of everywhere. So like I've got no idea what the context for the Moi Je suis pas and Petit Mec, but I really want to know, because like what world is like what is the build up to where it's like, I'm not a small bloke?
Yeah, someone let us know if you know the history,
or find us, send us a link of where we can find all of this Urios content. I just amazes me that this essentially decent but not amazing coach seems to have a never-ending supply of like niche consumable items that you could buy, or like niche stash or niche merchandise. I don't think I've ever seen a coach or manager have as much merchandise as based on him as there is on Christophe Urios.
It's the summer of Urios core. That's what all the kids are wearing. This Saturday is Black Eyed Peas at Marcel Michelin, so everyone's going to be there.
Is it this Saturday?
In there, it is. I've just looked it up. Yeah, in their Urios core garbs, giving it large.
There'll be a lot of Urios budget smugglers knocking around.
Yeah, big week in Clermont. One final thing as well is not necessarily a Petit-Fours, but Clermont Overnat rugby fan.
Yes,
missed out to Stade Bordelais, who have now won 4 in a row as well in Elite 1 Feminin. So they're absolutely flying. But the Overnat team can at least console themselves with some Urios kit and
get hopefully some Urios cups. Yeah,
free tickets to an aging Black Eyed Peas gig on Saturday. What a time to be alive! Right, Rob, anything else? You can follow us ahead of the Autumn Nations Championship, France New Zealand kicking off Saturday morning. Follow us Instagram, TikTok, X,
YouTube. Subscribe on YouTube. We will be doing top 14 team of the season next week, if not the week after. I've committed to next week. Let's do it next week.
Yeah,
nice. And we'll try and put up the Pro Day team of the season at some point as well.
Look forward to another.
If you've got any, I tell you what, if you've listened to this far, you're hardcore. If you've got any suggestions for award categories for the Golden Buffs, I'm all ears. We've got similar ones to last year, but if there's a new category that you think would work, we're open to suggestions.
I mean, he's got a couple of weeks to pore over all the brilliant own tries.
Yeah, there's some. I've been compiling. I compiled a list. The list of own tries and try of the season contenders is getting quite long. Just to even filter, just to sort down the shortlist is going to be a tough work.
Yeah, can't wait for that. Right, thank you as ever for listening. Top 14 is concluded for another year. Some international fun to come. Yeah, enjoy the heat wave. Enjoy the summer rugby. Enjoy your new Christophe Urios kit. And we'll see you next week. I've been Richard. That has been Rob. We've been the Rosbiff Rugby Podcast. Au revoir.
Au revoir.